Greetings, greetings, any awesome, warm, positive vibrations. This is Body-Culinary, and it's warm, so I invite you to get some water in a wine glass. And I just wanted to come on today, give you all a quick shout just to touch base and find out how folks are going for those that are embarking on a journey of radical self-acceptance and really accepting these divinely assigned body parts that we have been blessed with, that we have popped out onto this 3D plane with. So welcome if you're new to the channel, Body-Culinary on TikTok, Kwasa Peaceful Eating, like a full belly. And on this channel, I share my journey of radical self-acceptance, encouragement and motivation to begin, refine, restart a personal movement practice, consume peacefully. So a focus on fresh, whole living fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, and fresh ground spices. I do have a list, as well as consuming from the garden, your personal movement practice, and accepting what you have here, right? So from time to time, I will share recipes. There actually are quite a few of those videos. If you scroll back on this channel, there's actually a lot of content, and some of the content will be moved over to the Patreon site. So welcome to the channel. You're welcome to subscribe if you find value here. I invite you to share it with someone who could benefit, someone that perhaps may be dealing with a whole lot of acne, as that's something I've experienced, someone that maybe perhaps be very frustrated with the hair that you popped out onto this 3D plane with. So I'm all about a journey of radical, what I call radical self-acceptance. So today I wanted to touch in about stress and thinning hair. So I have very, very fine hair. I mean, my hair is combined several times, and actually literally I just rinsed it, right? And I wanted to mention I don't put products in my hair, and it's a constant listening to my hair. So I don't have any oil in it. People sometimes say, oh, why don't you try this fast growth shampoo? Why don't you try wild growth oil? And I think people are very well intentioned. However, I was very intentional about throwing away my shower caddy because I don't have a desire to be a slave to products. I don't see why I can't just use things that are in my garden that don't have preservatives in it. And so that allows me to see how my skin, my hair, my nails behave. And I'm of the observation that my body temple is constantly communicating with me. So I like to see what my hair, my skin, and my nails are doing, because my body was communicating with me when I had all of that cystic acne. And also, I think many of us don't even see what our hair does and what it performs like. I think if my hair was all falling out and hanging on by a shoestring, I would have no problem cutting it off and being very stylish with a very low cut, which I have done before. Most likely, I would put henna, some safe henna tattoos on my head. So I think it's all about really radical self-acceptance is not just like a settling, but it's a really like a celebration of observing that we have a unique, I consider this a beauty mark, right? Because no one else has it. It's very unique. And this hair has some unique things it can do. Now, my hair is not, it doesn't have big Congo natis, which I adore. So it doesn't make sense for me to chip away at my own esteem by wanting something that I don't have. And I think we're encouraged to constantly be longing and desiring for something that's just not going to happen. Right. And so I'm not only am I okay, I've learned to celebrate it. And one of the ways that I've done that, what that looks like for me, is finding styles that are not appropriate, but that work with, that gel with what I have. Right. And so that has been very liberating and also very fun. Right. To find styles that work with my hair. So before it was it locked, and I didn't intend for it to lock. Right. I wore a lot of double strand twists, and towards the end, right before they locked, and in my travels, I had very loose double strand twists. So I was always looking for things that weren't very stressful to my hair. I know that my hair is so delicate, it would be easy for me to lose my hairline. So my hair is still very wet. And I think, I just heard someone, a YouTuber I really like, and I've heard this before, and something just kind of stood out to me, saying that, we have to deal with the frizz. And I just thought about that. And I was thinking, like, I don't have frizz. This is not frizz. our Caucasian human counterparts, they have frizz. I wouldn't consider this frizz. It's not frizzy, because frizzy is something that straight hair may frizz up. This is cotton. This is kinky, cottony hair, and that's its natural state. That's what it does. It's kinky cotton. It beads up. Some folks ask if I have grays. I have some little grays hidden in there. It has its own kind of color. All of them come in flat. This one, I don't know if that's from a double strand twist of me picking at it, but it's very fine and delicate, to the point where, as much as I love beads and stuff like that, for me wearing a lot of beads and shells, it's actually damaged my hair. So I think if you have very fine, kinky hair, there are some other things to consider. And I can definitely remember times of frustration with my hair. Well, I was kind of stressed out, even before YouTube, just looking at different styles in the Black hair care magazines, and especially with certain cornrow styles. I love cornrows, but my scalp always itches profusely with cornrows. That my hair, it was just like frustrating trying to get it to do something that it wouldn't. And if I really think back, I can think of those were the times when I, and also my peers, and we were young teenagers and preteens, when we ran to permanent relaxers, right? To the creamy crack, because the hair, it wouldn't slick down. It wouldn't do this or that. I think many of us have, quote unquote, evolved to styling gels, right? That aren't so drying. But I remember, out of pure frustration, right, of like combing through the so-called naps, right? We went and we just got the perm, right? And you hear people say that it's easier. And so, you know, I question things that we say all the time that are habitual, that we pass down, that other hair, how could other hair be easier? That's an assumption that somebody else's hair that they have on their head is easier. It's like saying somebody else's life is easy and you don't know what they're dealing with. And so, you know, even to discover that my hair feels very, very soft, just as soft as it did when I was using conditioners. It's an epiphany that I don't need conditioners, that my hair can be light and fluffy. I don't need to do a doobie. It can be light and fluffy without all having to do all of this stuff. I find all of those procedures, they have been, and then many of the techniques, I found them actually stressful. It's so much stuff, like hours. I can think of some of my homies, hours in the salon. I think I would go bananas. I love Sister Locs, but I just know I don't have the mental fortitude to sit there. That's almost like water torture to me. I'm not going to do it. And I feel that I should be able to be carefree, to be able to wake up and go. So I literally just rinse my hair. My scalp is super clean. I give it a vigorous massage. I'm using more of my teas now. I have found a natural shampoo, but also the area where I live, it's rare to find really good organic products. I've made coconut soap and stuff before, but the longer you sit with yourself and you sit in the living meditation of yourself, just like in preparing your whole fresh living foods, I like to say the food is communicating with you. Your body's communicating with you if you're paying attention, if you're in the process, if you're in the conversation, you're listening. So for example, an example of that is you have your locks and they start to mature and your hair is very fine. Look how thin these are, how flat they are. So intuitively, in listening to my hair, I could see that I needed to let them combine, right? Just so that they can have, you know, there's more strength in numbers. So these are some considerations for people with fine hair, or some folks that would like to keep their hair in their head or would like to have locks. I would say definitely all the twisting and the tension, it's just too much, or definitely on the hairline and too much on the scalp. And so when your hands are in there, you're not feeling the gel and you're not feeling all the oils, you can feel how your hair behaves. So the over manipulation, I would definitely say for folks with fine hair, it's a bit much. And as someone that has never had very dense hair, right? I'm lucky if I have 38 locks. And this is with many of them combined, some of them even 4 locks. And it's still not a lot. As I'm feeling through my hair as I'm washing it, I'm like, intuitively, I think I may need to let the back of them, some more of them just combine so that they can be strong as they lengthen, right? And I can also feel intuitively, even though I don't have oil in my hair, I can feel some sections where this part towards the root may not be as wide or be more compact. So what is that telling me? That, again, it's constantly confirming that, you know, one of my favorite styles is 2 ponytails when I'm exercising, but my hair just doesn't like to be messed with. So quite often now, I'll just put it back in one or tie a scarf over it while I'm exercising. So these are some things to consider if you have very fine hair. All of our hair behaves very differently. And I think for women with very thin, fine hair, we can wind up even aggravating our hair and our scalp and follicles and increase our chances of alopecia and balding from traction alopecia, from creating more stress, like a nervous tick, out of fear, right? So I don't often get to see my hair, and it's still wet because I literally just rinsed it. So my hair is not very dense in the back, and it's one of the reasons why I like to embrace the fluff. I don't do any parting or anything like that. So these feel strong, but I can see as they're maturing that I may need to let these just grow together. And many of the tutorials online, I've looked at some people's hair that have very thin hair, fine hair that grows away from the locks. These things can make us very anxious, and we still like, okay, one time I thought of interlocking. Maybe I tried once or twice, and I saw very quickly that was too much stress for my hair. I had even bought the tool one time. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to twist all of that being so delicate. So I'll just, try to do those wick locks. That kind of destroyed my hair. I bought all these tools and it destroyed my hair. So it's been so many times my hair was like, okay, you can keep trying, but I'm trying to tell you, I want to be left alone. And so although my hair grows away from the lock, at some point I just kind of like trusted, right? Every now and then I would push a piece in, but now I'm kind of fun and I don't really have to do that. So somehow the hair has adjusted on its own. So now that was a concern before, right? This is all in the years now. I think this is my 5th. If not going to my 5th or my 6th year with locks, right? And I've done a couple of chops, maybe about this much off from hair that was damaged, or I tried to save it with some brown thread. But I'm like, all of that is too much mental stress. So as I'm looking at how the hair behaves, these were combined. This was like 4 locks before. This feels nice and it feels stable, at the root. Right, this feels stable, right? And I think it's important to listen to your hair, to touch your hair, to touch your body temple, to do stomach massage, to do breast massage with oil. These are things that you can implement seamlessly into your routine so you can see what the heck is going on there. Otherwise, we just blurt out all these questions to everybody on YouTube. They don't see you, or the doctors don't see you, and they don't live with you to see what's going on. Greetings. So I'm just, just feeling, just like I felt here before. Initially, I did not want to join these, but intuitively, I feel like I don't know if these are going to be strong. Again, this is because my hair is so fine. It's so delicate. It can be prone to breakage, and I'm not going to run out and buy a million products. It was liberating. I'm not going back. I'm just not. It's not for me mentally, emotionally. Not going to do it. Mind you, now I can go cut all this stuff off, but I want to experience my hair and see what it does. It does change colors in the sun. So I think really with radical self-acceptance, it's like going along for the ride to see what happens, right? Addressing your fear or your anxieties about what if. What is it going to look like? If it's already 38 locks and if my hair is not very thick, I don't know what this could look like. I know definitely they're all going to be flat, but I do kind of feel like I want them to have a stable base. So this is a very organic process. I think a lot of emotions, like if we really listen into our internal dialogue, you'll see there's some relaxation videos on this channel. I think it's so important to cultivate throughout the day. Doesn't have to take necessarily more time. Inner listening. Otherwise, we keep running to everybody on YouTube to rate us on our looks or to tell us what they think about. These things are really like jarring us, volunteering ourselves almost like for like abuse or to further destabilize our esteem. And your sense of self, I think, is very precious, which is why I encourage women to let your daughter's hair grow down to the ground, even if she chooses to cut it at some point, just so we can like bask in the regalness of how we were divinely assigned. These body parts. So you can be creative and do whatever you want. I don't tell grown folks what to do, but I find it's just liberating. So I'm not interested in a whole bunch of products. I'm just not. So I'm not here for a whole bunch of sponsors on products because I don't use them. I can't sell something that I don't use. The most you'll find in me is like some shea butter or some raw shea butter, cocoa butter, or some olive oil or some cold pressed coconut oil. And I'm good with that because I prioritize health and relaxation as my number one beauty products, right? So I can see what I need to address instead of always feeling like I need to cover up. So stress. I think I observe as someone that's a professional chef and a personal trainer for many years that although we have so much more information about stress and how it affects us and cortisol levels and how that contributes to belly fat and how dangerous fat is that wraps around the organs, I can definitely say that I observe a disassociation and also a lack of accountability or a lack of being really aware without making ourselves right or wrong, a lack of awareness of how much we are affected by stress, and we're not really acknowledging, especially as women. We're not, especially as Afro women, we are not. It's like the information is there and it's being said and it's being spread across the streams, displayed across the screens, but it's not clicking. It's not clicking. And I also have compassion and comprehending that we are so much in survival mode that it's almost like we don't have the mental, psychological access to get off the wheel, because it's almost like in our subconscious, if I stop to address the stress, I'm going to collapse, or I won't be able to pay my bills. I won't be able to function, right? And it's a mentality, it's a state of being. However, that's not working, right? What that winds up resulting in is you don't know where the extra 25, 50, 100, 150 pounds of adipose tissue came from, right? Which is a technical term for fatty tissue, right? So I invite us to consider not just calling ourselves fat. I'm not talking about denial, but observing that from a more objective perspective, that we're carrying excess unhealthy adipose tissue around on our body temples, if that makes sense, right? So these are just symptoms, how the stress is showing itself, not addressing the stress. And I also I invite us to consider slowing down so we can notice, so we can become present to what's going on mentally, because the mental is what's driving all of our behaviors. The subconscious is what's driving our behaviors. Even you may slow down and notice internal judgments and criticisms about your hair. This is the body temple that I have. I honor it, which means I take care of it. It's not just in words, right? It's a lot of words. We're so enticed with words and acting and everything displayed across the screen. That must be weighted out or balanced out with actions, right? So actions, self-care, right? Appreciation, leaving ourselves alone, right? Giving ourselves a break so that, the hair can flourish without all the aggravation, so that the liver, the kidneys, the spleen, so that they can heal, so that your skin can heal. You know what? The body is very intelligent. The body is intelligent. It knows what to do with sugar. It knows what to do with foreign substances. It knows what to do with food and substances masquerading as food, eaten in excess. It's trying to protect us. So from that perspective, even the extra adipose tissue, what is the body supposed to do with all these different things, these pounds and all these things that are chemicals that it doesn't recognize? So the body is actually the body temple, this magnificent machine, an organism, is it's smart, it's intelligent, it's trying to protect us by putting it somewhere and storing it on the body temple so that we can still get out here and function. So the longer we stay unaware, life is still going on. The body still is making an effort to work with us and to support us and to still function. We don't realize that we're in survival mode. And survival mode, it has very debilitating effects. And at some point, we're going to have to pay the bill, and we're going to have to be accountable, even if we're nice people, even if we're good people, even if we're religious people, right? Even if you're a good mom, we're going to have to pay the tab, right? For not being present and not taking care of our body temples. So the consumption patterns and the way of eating and relaxation in our hair. A big part of my hair in semi-freeform locks and what I call Afrolocs, right? Because this is a unique experience out here. A big part of the foundation of all of this is relaxation and feeling at ease and feeling regal, right? We may not notice that we look at other people and see, oh, they're having this great experience and they're so beautiful and they're so regal. Totally ignoring and not acknowledging ourselves, looking outside of ourselves. So what I like to take a whole lot of distraction off the table. Doesn't mean I don't like to groom. I love to groom. I love to bathe. I like to comfort myself. But taking a lot of that mental and emotional distraction off of the table so I can hear what the heck is going on. Because who's going to have the most vested interest in you getting to the root of our mindless behaviors? You're the one that stands to benefit the most. So I have made a conscious effort, right? Although I'm sure I'll fall short many times, to be 100 and 110% responsible and accountable. Even if I fail, mess up, I'm going to be accountable, right? Because that frees up a lot of the mental, emotional, I would say, stagnation, stuckness, and paralysis when it comes to getting in action around what you say you value. You value beauty, you value health. Are you in action consistently around it? Are you excited about it? If not, then that says it's something for us to engineer and for us to alter our perspective. That's something that's very deliberate and something that's very intentional. So I've gone along for the ride to see what's going to happen. What's it going to do? I'm right back at this state again. It's been like decades. And I'm right back here again with this very fine, flat hair. And some of them feel like they might need some more support. And it takes a while. I think it's been like, for this to combine, I think this has been like over a year it took for this to combine. It will lock very quickly, but for it to be very solid and matted. So I'm continuing to go along for the ride. And maybe part of my mind was like, oh my gosh, what would I look like with 10 locks? I don't want 10 locks. But then again, that's how my hair locked. I didn't want locks. I was like, let's go along for the ride and see what it does. I do know that my body is intelligent. I know for a fact, the minute I pick up resistance, I do resistance training. When I take on joyful movement, my body responds. Not only that, my mental responds. It's always like I was missing out. I feel so free. I feel so energetic. I feel so athletic. I feel so joyous when I engage in my movement practice. African dance, capoeira, cardio, my movement practice inside my house. Have never, ever, ever regretted it. So huge in my toolbox. When I'm nourishing myself with beautiful foods, my body responds to it. That's a fact. So I've engaged in that long enough where that is something I don't have to wonder about. And still, I'm humbled by how much distraction from stressful interactions, habitual ways of responding to folks that are triggering us and we're triggering each other back and forth can take you way off your trajectory. And in particular, right now, with an even more stress with this whole situation going on, you can be paralyzed into inactivity. I don't care how cut and ripped I've been. I don't take for granted. I never take for granted. The body can transform itself. It's actually very forgiving. However, the mental is first, and many folks want to just focus on the recipes. Recipes are great. There's no shortage of recipes. Workouts are great. There's no shortage of recipes, but there's something deeper, right? To get to the foundation. If you get to the foundation of your why, and your big enough why, and if you can sit with the discomfort of looking at our fixations, right? Our mental, emotional fixations and our addictive qualities and why, rather than make ourselves bad or wrong, accountable, I found, is much more effective. Responsible, I found, is much more effective than making ourselves bad or wrong. So sitting and being accountable and responsible, which means what? That means most likely and likely there will be actions attached to these realizations that we come up with, right? Because when you acknowledge that, for example, I've been eating myself to the point of deformity when now my organs, right, are totally distended all over the place. If I can see, because I'm big on education, that, oh my gosh, most likely I have a lot of visceral fat. That's dangerous. That means likely I will likely at some point encounter diabetes, heart disease, and high blood pressure, right? So some objective, comprehensive education, information, and once you know, now that means we have to do something. Do something. Or we can keep hopping around from channel to channel. At some point, it's going to be beneficial for us to get into an activity. And I love to come together around an activity. So I'm going to be shifting this channel, yet again, some of the direction of this channel and some of the content I will rest over on the Patreon. By the way, if you are a Patreon member of Body-Culinary, I was listing it as Kwasa Peaceful Eating. That's what I call myself on some platforms, but it's actually, I found out, Body-Culinary on Patreon. So for those folks that are Patreon members and that are supporting the channel, at the end of every month, we're going to be coming together to pull out every single piece of produce that you have invested in that you might be letting go and rotten in your refrigerator. It's common for many people, all that organic stuff you're paying for, and we're going to pull it out and we're going to prep it. So I found there are several things and patterns I found that really work for clients over the years. Support, right? Creating support for yourself, very focused support. 2, coming together around an activity. It's great to watch YouTube and gain inspiration. However, inspiration quite often is momentary. And the moment that you get a phone call from your child's school or something stressful, a bill, you can go right mentally out of the conversation. So staying in the conversation, creating support for yourself, getting objective feedback, right? Once you've pinpointed what is going on with you, whether it's your weight or I don't have my movement practice or I have injuries that are holding me back. I don't know what exercises are safe to do, or I don't know what my numbers are, my cholesterol or my sodium levels. Or I don't know if I'm eating too much or too little, or perhaps I want to eat plant-based, but I don't know if I'm getting enough nutrients, or my body's going through a phase of life, or I'm a mom and my children are going through puberty, and my spouse wants to, or my partner wants to eat something different, or a man with a different body type. There's all these different things that sometimes, we don't know what to do, so we get stuck right there. And that's compounded when we add on the stress of bills, and many of us in survival mode, or perhaps even with a health diagnosis, right? So relaxation is critical. I know we like to think we don't have time. I would say we don't really have the time to not engage in some kind of relaxation. These small activities have really huge leveraged effects. 15 minutes or even 5 minutes of relaxation, 20 minutes to half an hour of exercise a day. That is efficient and is safe. You would be amazed at how much transformation can take place, right? And that's very conscientious, and that can also open the doorway to you starting to naturally do a lot more when you incorporate it into your lifestyle. So this whole thing, I'm going along for the ride, right? So that I don't want to approach my hair. Let me not say what I don't want. I rather approach my hair from okay, let's see what it's gonna do. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but it's still here on my head. So let's go along for the ride. And usually coming from that perspective, I'm always pleasantly surprised. So I'm surprised even now that, when it's went from 2 locks to 4 locks to 3 locks, it's been some years, I can see how small and thin this has gotten. This is what really fine, thin hair can do. And so I see it's not a horror story because I've let them combine. So it's going to continue to transform on its own. What I do know is that not addressing the stress, the lack of sleep, because that's real in terms of worry, or even perhaps if you're in another phase of life as a woman or a man, going through changes of life, because there's research now. There's another video on this channel that men actually have, especially those dealing with prostate cancer, which a large percentage of men will deal with, many similar to symptoms of women, what they call hitting a wall. Changes in their body temperature, and them starting to develop breast tissue, issues with impotence. So males and females are going to experience changes in their body. So when I think about all of these things, which is why I love education, I'm like, we're so distracted with these divisive channels This could be time when you could be making deposits into the 401k of your health and your vitality and removing stress. A lot of our lifestyle habits, as well as some education, kind of ward us off from making poor decisions. Poor decisions cause stress. Irresponsible decisions cause a lot of stress. So it's no secret that popular culture and popular entertainment lulls us to sleep and is very hypnotic and entices us to making a lot of irresponsible decisions following the rest of the sheep. And it costs us a lot. And I find a lot of times we're not honest or aware or present to what the true cost is going to be. So when you really think about the true cost, and when I've worked with so many clients that have lost body parts, surgeries, or just so much trauma based off of decisions, I'm like, I don't have time for the other stuff. I need to get in order and make deposits into my vigorous joyous movement practice, into my food, into my juices. It's a much better use of your time. Taking lots of things off the table so I can free up the mental, emotional headspace, right? I'm actually relieving a lot of stress, even accepting my hair and my skin. I'm taking a lot of stuff off the table. And I don't respond to other people's opinions of me, who don't pay my bills, who don't demonstrate an investment on my best interest. I'm taking a lot of stress off the table. This is so critical. Stress and our triggered responses to stress is a big reason of why many of us are eating mindlessly and consuming mindlessly, or looking for distracting activities that end up creating more problems, right? So the simplicity and the relaxation and the self-acceptance and the being able to smile at yourself in the mirror and making responsible decisions and corrective action for things that you can assess that we need to shift the trajectory and shift our level of investment in this particular area. You might need to pull some energy and focus and attention out of this area that hasn't been providing results and put energy, resources, time, money into another area that is going to give us something back, right? There's something that's going to be reciprocal. So stress is no joke. We're not acknowledging it, but it is costing us tremendously. If we're eating lots of foods that don't nourish us with B vitamins, we're losing B vitamins all the time. We're secreting B vitamins when we're constantly under stress. There's some really objective physiological responses that our temple is having to stress. So I'm not going to go on too long. I just wanted to come on to encourage you to consider, not just for the hair, the look of the hair, but I invite you to consider the body is going through all kinds of changes. And a lot of dis-ease is cumulative over the years, over time, from the consistent habits every day that we don't get into action. You'd be better off doing 5, 10, 15 minutes. If you can find 10 or 15 minutes to get into a movement practice, your mind is going to be more open. That's going to increase over time. If you can find the space to cut up some vegetables, even if you think you don't like the taste, you are with each step, each action is like a coat of paint. Each one is like a coat of paint, and you will start to build the habit. You'll start to retrain your taste buds. All of a sudden on your radar, you're going to keep your eye, what will be on your radar are more solutions, other things that you can do with the food. But it starts first with you making a decision to be open to doing something different and to getting into action around the things that you say that you value. If you value health, if you value longevity and vitality, it's cognitive dissonance. It's not in alignment if you're not doing anything about it. If those actions, if you don't have committed actions show up in your checkbook and on your calendar, then how committed are you really? I remember a business coach told me that. I was very confronting. He told me if you're really committed to something, anybody that's committed to something shows up in 2 places, on their checkbook and on their calendar, as set appointments that you keep, just like a doctor's appointment. So your movement practice, right? Cutting up fruits and vegetables. This stuff is not coming out of a vacuum. If you don't invest, then why should we expect pristine health and vitality and a calm mood, right? If we're constantly addicted, and I would say you can be addicted now to watching things that are stressing you out, right? So I invite you to consider addiction, which is why I don't like to play games with addiction, because it slides through the back door. You're watching something, you can't believe you're watching it. It's so crazy. But it's definitely something that's going on in our psyche, and companies and folks that are marketing things to us, they're very, very well aware of how enticed we can be by these screens, right? And that the brain can be having internal responses just as if, the actual events were happening to us. So I invite you, out of compassion for yourself, to consider what you're listening to if it's stressing you out, right? Listen to your internal dialogue. Are you cussing? Are your facial expressions changing? Are you eating mindlessly in front of the screens? Are you laughing at other people's pain? I know this may sound corny, but if you're laughing at other people's pain, you may not even realize that you're becoming desensitized. You find yourself constantly against this group of people, against this gender, when it could be so much time you could be investing into your own self-improvement and corrective action, and making more space for play and for adventure. So I just wanted to come on and send you all some positive vibes. Feel free to support the channel. The link should be there if you're interested in any of the guides that I have written. Whole living foods in the hood with menus to fit your budget. So you can see with pictures exactly what I've been doing all these years. It's totally sustainable to eat plant-based and whole, fresh, and unprocessed, even without a dehydrator if you don't want to use one. As well, there is natural beauty, no products. You can see how I threw my shower caddy in the garbage, and what I've been putting on my hair and skin, which is food. If I can't eat it, I don't put it on my face. And even there are pictures in there of my hair before it locked in a loose natural. So there is a webinar on the site, body-culinary.com, healthy eating for men. There's also emergency food preparedness and food preservation workshop that's there, that's available. Let me think, is there anything else? And then also I'll be putting other content on the Patreon if someone is interested in personal coaching in terms of getting off and running your movement practice, getting your food in order, which is focused around whatever label you want to call yourself, whole, fresh, unprocessed food. You may have a lot of questions about how to prepare the foods, right? How do you make this a lifestyle? How do you take this on the road? I answer all of those questions if you want something catered for you. You may even have injuries that you're working around. And the morning time classes, you'll have to adjust yourself to my time zone. When you click in, you'll have to adjust with whatever your time zone is. Hit it and quit it, that workout. Flower Fit. That's at 6:15. That's 40 minutes. That's all you need daily. We're going to be doing some gardening together. The Cocoon, that's private, and also lunchtime classes are common sense nutrition and effective fitness. Those two I recommend for most people to cut the guesswork out of what you're doing. If you're constantly showing up and your body's not changing, there's a reason why. You may be taking in a lot more. You may not understand how to make certain substitutions. You may be thinking that you're eating some things that are very healthy. You may not realize how much calories are in it, how much sodium is in it. So I am a nutrition cyborg when it comes to that. That's my jam. So those are lunchtime classes so that you can have support, right? So that you can take your lifestyle on the road with you, right? If you have a family, you don't want to create a whole mutiny in the whole house where you're making 20 different meals for 20 different people. There's some know-how to this. It doesn't have to take you 30, 40 years to revamp your lifestyle. You can revamp your movement practice and your eating to the time you're 60, 70, 80, and 100. So that's the goal, right? Eating and consuming, right? Consuming for vitality, for longevity, for peace of mind, for your mood, and the result is beauty, which is more so a state of mind. So I'm inviting you all to create a great day on purpose. Subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, share it with someone that could benefit, and I will see you soon.